The cold December wind whipped across Manhattan, rattling the thin windows of the small apartment where Lena Whitford held her son against her chest. The boy's breathing was shallow. Every inhale a fragile rasp that sent panic shooting through her veins. The small digital pulse oximeter flickered on her nightstand, its numbers dropping lower with each passing minute. She pressed her cheek to his forehead. It was burning. Too hot. Too fast. "Evan, baby, stay with me. Mommy's right here." Her hands trembled as she grabbed her iPhone and dialed her husband again. Brad should have been home. He promised no late meetings, no drinks, no excuses. But the call went straight to voicemail. "Brad, please, it's Evan. He can't breathe right. I need you. Please pick up." Her voice cracked, swallowed by the walls that had witnessed far too many lonely nights. Another cough tore through Evan's chest, loud enough to break her heart in half. She dialed 911 with shaking fingers, whispering prayers she hadn't spoken in years. 2 miles away, inside a luxurious suite at the Street Regis, New York, her husband slept untouched by the chaos. The room glowed with soft golden lamps, a half-finished bottle of Macallan on the marble table, and a trail of designer clothes leading to the king-sized bed. Wrapped in expensive sheets lay Brad and his mistress, Sloane Marwick, her head resting on his shoulder as if stolen comfort belonged to her. Sloane stirred when Brad's phone buzzed. She reached across him, saw Lena's name flash across the screen, and smirked. "She's calling again," she murmured, pressing the phone face down to silence it. Brad didn't even open his eyes. "She worries too much," he mumbled. "The kid's always sick, it'll pass." Then he drifted back into sleep, completely unaware that the life he helped create was slipping away. Back in the ambulance, Lena held Evan's hand tightly as paramedics worked around her. The sirens screamed through the streets, lights slicing across the city. She kissed her son's knuckles. "Please, sweetheart. Please stay, don't leave me." But by the time they reached the hospital, the world had already tilted. The emergency team rushed him into a room. Machines beeped. Voices shouted. A nurse guided Lena back as her legs buckled under her. She stood frozen as the monitor flatlined, its monotone ringing louder than any storm. Her world shattered in a single, merciless moment. When Brad finally woke up hours later, stretching in quiet luxury, he had no idea. His betrayal had already written the beginning of the end. Because at that same moment, far across the city, a black SUV rolled to a stop outside the hospital. A tall man stepped out, stern face, steel-cold eyes, a presence that made even security guards straighten their backs. Colonel Grant Holden had returned. And this time, he wasn't here to comfort his daughter. He was here to destroy the man who let his grandson die. And Brad has no idea that the nightmare has already begun. The fluorescent lights of the hospital corridor cast long, exhausted shadows as Lena Whitford sat curled in a gray plastic chair, her hands numb, her eyes burning from hours of crying. Her son's small blanket lay across her lap, still warm in places where her fingers had clutched it. Nurses walked past her with sympathetic glances, but none dared speak. Everyone knew grief this raw was sacred territory. Her whole body felt hollow, as if someone had carved out everything inside her and left only air behind. The air smelled like antiseptic and heartbreak. Lena stared at her own reflection in the dark window across the hallway. She barely recognized the woman in it, hair tangled, face streaked with tears, hospital wristband still around her wrist. A pair of footsteps echoed down the corridor, slow, heavy, with a strange authority that made Lena look up instinctively. Colonel Grant Holden stood there, older than she remembered, the lines on his face deeper, his once dark hair now streaked with gray. But his presence unshakable, commanding, powerful had not changed at all. He still looked like the kind of man who could walk into a battlefield and silence it with one look. "Dad?" Lena whispered, her voice cracking. Grant didn't speak at first. He simply crossed the distance between them and gathered her into his arms. Lena buried her face against his chest, and for the first time in years, she felt like a child again, a child safe in the arms of the man she once idolized, then resented, then lost. "I came as soon as I heard," he said quietly, his voice rough. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. So damn sorry." She clung to him as if he were the last solid thing left in a world made of smoke. "How did you know?" she managed to ask. Grant exhaled slowly. Your supervisor called the emergency contact number you left years ago. I never changed it. Lena swallowed hard. She had forgotten that detail. She had spent years believing her father wanted nothing to do with her. But now, seeing him here, grief carved a new truth in her chest. He had never stopped watching over her. Then the truth hit her like a blow. Dad, Evan's gone. She said it quietly, as if saying it too loud might shatter the building. Grant's jaw clenched. Not just sadness, anger. Cold. Simmering anger. Where's Brad? He asked. Lena shook her head. He didn't come. He didn't answer. He was out. Her voice trembled. He didn't even call back. And in that moment, something in Grant's eyes changed. The soldier in him surfaced. The protector. The man who had spent decades navigating danger, betrayal, and secrets darker than his daughter could imagine. Your husband left you alone on the night your son died? He asked, voice low, almost dangerous. Lena nodded, tears streaming again. He didn't care, Dad. He didn't care at all. Grant stood slowly, his shoulders squared, his expression like carved granite. Then he will. Lena blinked through tears. What do you mean? He didn't answer. Not directly. Instead, he placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. You need rest. I'll take you home. Tomorrow, we start dealing with the people who failed you. People? She echoed. Grant looked down the hall, as if he could already see the path ahead. Park Avenue offices, luxury hotel suites, financial ledgers, hidden secrets. His mind was already calculating moves like a general preparing for war. There's more to this than you know, he said, and Brad Whitford is not the only one who's going to answer for it. Lena stared up at him, confused, shaken. Grant reached into his coat pocket, pulling out something small, an access badge with a corporate logo she didn't recognize. Dad, what is that? Grant's eyes hardened. It's the first key, he said, to the truth about your husband. And Lena had no idea just how deep Brad's betrayal really went. The sky over Manhattan was a steel-gray bruise when Lena finally stepped out of the hospital. The city never slept, but tonight it felt strangely muted, as if even the noise recognized her grief and softened itself. Her father's black SUV waited at the curb, headlights glowing through the mist. Grant opened the door for her, a gesture he hadn't made since she was a child, and guided her into the warmth of the vehicle. She clutched Evan's blanket to her chest as they drove toward her apartment. Every streetlight blurred through the fog on her eyelashes. Not a single word passed between them, but silence with her father felt safer than any comfort Brad had given her in years. When they reached her building, Grant helped her upstairs. The hallway smelled of old paint and dust. Lena fumbled for her keys, her hands trembling so badly she dropped them. Grant picked them up, unlocked the door, and stopped cold. Inside, the apartment lights were on. There was a faint smell of cologne, strong, sharp, expensive. Lena's stomach twisted. Brad was home. He was standing in the kitchen drinking bottled water, scrolling through his phone as if it were just any other night. His hair was slightly mussed, shirt wrinkled, jaw rough with stubble. The picture of a man who had slept comfortably somewhere that wasn't home. He looked up lazily when they entered. There you are, he said, as if she had been out shopping. I was wondering where you went. Lena stared at him, unable to form words. Grant stood beside her, his expression unreadable, but heavy with restrained fury. Brad's eyes flicked to the older man. And you, he added, raising an eyebrow. Didn't know we were hosting guests. Lena swallowed hard. Brad. Evan. Her voice cracked, breaking again. He didn't make it. For a moment, nothing in Brad's expression changed. Not grief, not shock, not even confusion. He simply sighed, as if she had told him the subway was delayed. I figured, he said. The kid was always sick. Grant stepped forward so fast Lena barely saw him move. Watch your mouth, he growled, voice low, vibrating with the kind of threat that could freeze blood. Brad blinked, surprised. Excuse me? Show some respect, Grant said. Your son is dead. Brad's jaw tightened, but not with sorrow, with irritation. Look, I know you're upset, but yelling at me won't bring him back. And honestly, Lena, you always overreact about everything related to him. Nah. Something inside Lena cracked in that moment, not like glass, but like stone, a breaking so deep it echoed through her bones. Where were you? she asked quietly. Your phone was off. You didn't call back. You weren't there. Brad shrugged, taking another drink. I told you I had a work thing. You were at the Street Regis. Grant cut in. Sweet 1904. Brad froze. Just for a fraction of a second, too fast for most to notice, but not fast enough to escape the eyes of a trained soldier. Then Brad scoffed. You've been spying on me? Grant didn't answer. He didn't have to, because the truth had already revealed itself in Brad's reaction. Lena stared at her husband, her chest tightening. She whispered, You left our son dying so you could be with her. Brad slammed the bottle onto the counter. I'm not doing this right now. I've had a long night. We'll talk tomorrow when you're calm. He started to walk toward the bedroom. Grant's voice thundered through the apartment. You won't make it to tomorrow. Brad turned slowly, irritation turning to unease. What the hell does that mean? Grant reached into his coat not for a weapon, but for the badge he had shown Lena outside the hospital. The same badge that had terrified men far more dangerous than Brad. It means, Grant said, stepping forward, your life is about to fall apart, and I'm going to be the one who tears it down. Yeah. And Brad finally realized he was standing in front of a man he should never have crossed. Brad stared at the badge in Grant Holden's hand as if it were a live grenade. His eyes darted between the older man and Lena, confusion sharpening into suspicion. What is this? Some kind of scare tactic? He scoffed, though his voice trembled almost imperceptibly. Grant didn't flinch. His presence filled the small apartment like a shifting storm. You've built your life on lies, Brad, he said, his tone measured, calm in a way that felt far more dangerous than shouting. Tonight, those lies come home. Lena stood silent behind her father, her fingers clutching Evan's blanket. She had no idea what the badge meant, but the way Brad's pupils tightened told her he did. Brad forced a smirk. I don't know what kind of hero act you're pulling, old man, but you can't intimidate me. I work with federal clients every day. I'm not scared of a washed-up veteran. Grant stepped closer, and Brad instinctively backed up until his hip hit the counter. Wrong, Grant said softly. You don't work with federal clients. You work with their money. Their offshore channels, their missing assets. And you've been sloppy. The color drained from Brad's face. Lena blinked in confusion. Dad, what are you talking about? Grant didn't take his eyes off Brad. Your husband has been moving funds illegally for over a year, and he's been doing it through shell accounts registered under your name. Lena felt her knees weaken. My name? He used my name? Brad straightened, grasping at a thread of false confidence. Look, she signed the paperwork. I told her what to do. She agreed to everything. I what? Lena cried, horrified. Brad pointed at her aggressively. Don't play innocent. You said you trusted me. Those documents, you shoved them in front of her at midnight when she'd worked a double shift. Grant snapped. She signed them without reading because she was exhausted, and because she believed you. Lena's breath trembled. She remembered that night. Brad insisting she signed something routine. Her eyelids heavy, her mind numb, her trust blind. Now that trust had turned into a weapon against her. No, she whispered. No, Brad, you didn't. Brad coldly shrugged. It's not a big deal. No one will look at those accounts. And if they do, well, you're not exactly smart enough to fight it. Grant's fist slammed onto the counter so hard the bottled water tipped over. You used my daughter as a financial shield, he growled. You let her carry the legal risk while you slept with your intern. Brad flinched, but tried to recover. I don't know what she told you, but this is a private matter. I'm her husband. You're the one sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Grant leaned closer, his voice dropping to a chilling whisper. Son, I'm not here as her father. I'm here because the men you've been laundering money for. They're men I used to deal with. Men who don't forgive mistakes. Brad's throat bobbed. Panic flickered in his eyes. Lena recoiled. Dad, what does that mean? It means, Grant said, turning to her, that your husband didn't just abandon you tonight. He put you in the middle of a criminal network without your knowledge. No. The room spun around Lena. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She felt sick. Brad stepped forward, desperate now. Lena, listen. It's not as bad as he's making it sound. We can fix it. You and me. You don't speak to her, Grant snapped, Not anymore. Brad's jaw clenched, fury replacing fear. She's my wife. Not for long, Grant replied. Then he pulled a small black USB drive from his coat pocket and placed it on the counter between them. This, Grant said, is proof of everything. 1. Brad froze. Lena stared. And somewhere deep inside the walls of that small apartment, the truth finally scraped its way to the surface. But neither of them knew the evidence on that drive was only the beginning of the storm about to tear Brad's life apart. Lena stared at the small black USB drive sitting on the counter as if it were a living thing, pulsing with secrets she wasn't ready to face. Her hands were cold, her breath shallow. She wasn't sure which terrified her more. What was on that drive, or the fact that her father had come prepared for a war she didn't know existed. Grant picked it up carefully, almost reverently, like a detonator. Everything you need to know about Brad's double life is in here, he said quietly. But I need you to understand, Lena. Once we open this, there's no going back. Brad barked out a laugh, sharp and nervous. Oh, give me a break. You can't scare me with some cheap prop. You think plugging that thing into a computer is going to magically make her hate me? She's my wife. She knows me better than you ever will. Grant turned slowly. I know enough to bury you. Brad swallowed, the smirk slipping for a split second before he forced it back into place. You're all talk. Lena doesn't have it in her to betray me. She's too soft. Lena flinched at the word, soft. Brad had used it for years as a weapon. Soft when she cried. Soft when she begged him to spend time with their son. Soft when she apologized for things she never did wrong. Not tonight. Grant gently touched her shoulder. This is your choice, sweetheart, not mine. If you're not ready, I'll put it away. Lena's voice trembled, but she forced the words out. No, show me. Grant nodded. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a slim MacBook Pro, setting it on the kitchen table. Brad scoffed. You're insane. That thing could have anything on it. She's not going to. Lena cut him off. You don't get to speak for me anymore. Brad froze. Grant inserted the USB. A folder popped up instantly. Whitford, Operations. He clicked the first file. A spreadsheet filled the screen, rows and rows of account numbers, offshore transfers, shell corporations in Belarus, Singapore, the Cayman Islands. The amounts were staggering, millions, some transactions tagged under her name. Lena covered her mouth. Oh God. The next file was a video. Security footage from an elevator, the Street Regis, timestamped the night Evan died. Brad and Sloane entering the suite, wrapped around each other like a drunken secret. Lena's breath hitched in her throat. But the next video was worse. It was audio. Brad's voice, unmistakably slurred. I don't care what she texts. That kid's probably overreacting again. He'll live. He always does. Stop worrying. Come here. Lena staggered back as if struck. Brad rushed forward. Lena. Listen, this is taken out of context. She recoiled from his touch. Don't you dare. Grant closed the laptop gently, as if giving her a moment to breathe. But Lena felt no air anywhere. Just betrayal thick. Suffocating. Crushing. You used me, she whispered. You let me take the blame for your crimes. And you left Evan alone that night. Brad's mask finally shattered. I didn't leave him alone. You were there. He called for you, Lena screamed. He was dying, Brad. He was scared, and he needed his father. Brad's eyes hardened with a coldness that chilled her deeper than any winter wind. He wasn't my priority. The room fell silent. Grant stepped between them before Lena collapsed. You're finished, he told Brad. Every illegal dollar, every lie, every file. I'll make sure the right people see it. Brad's laugh was hollow, desperate. You think they'll believe you? I have connections. I have leverage. Not anymore, Grant said. He reached into his jacket again, this time pulling out a second USB. Lena blinked. Dad, what is that? Grant's jaw tightened. This one, he said, is worse. And Brad finally understood that whatever he saw so far was nothing compared to what was coming next. The second USB sat on the table like a loaded weapon, heavier in meaning than its size should allow. Brad stared at it, his confidence evaporating in real time. He swallowed hard and tried to laugh, but the sound came out thin and broken. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. "You're bluffing. There's nothing else." Grant didn't respond. He simply opened the MacBook again, inserted the second drive, and waited. A new folder popped up instantly. Priority files. Holden Security. Lena blinked. "Dad. Holden Security. That's my company," Grant said quietly. "The one I co-founded before you were born." Brad's face drained of color. "Holden, as in the federal contractor. The one that works with everyone," Grant finished, his voice sharp. "Agencies, branches, foreign partners. We built systems that track everything from cybercrime to political corruption." He turned the laptop so Brad could see the screen, including financial activity tied to certain corporations, and the people connected to them. A cold sweat broke out across Brad's forehead. The first file opened automatically. A surveillance report. Photos of Brad entering various upscale restaurants, late-night offices, private clubs. Not with Sloan, but with a man Lena had never seen before. Tall. Expensive suit. Face half hidden in every shot. Lena frowned. "Who is that?" Brad's jaw locked. "No one." Grant raised an eyebrow. "No one? Interesting. Because this no one is Viktor Kovalev." Brad stiffened. Grant continued calmly. "A billionaire with a criminal empire disguised as a logistics company. He launders money through people like you. And you," he pointed at Brad, "are 3 levels down in his operation. Disposable. Replaceable." Lena covered her mouth, horrified. "Brad, what did you get involved in?" Brad exploded. "Do you think I had a choice?" he snapped. "Do you think money just falls from the sky? We live in Manhattan, Lena. You wanted better schools, better doctors, a bigger place. How did you think we were paying for it?" "I never asked for any of that," she cried. "All I wanted was you home. With us. With Evan." "Yeah, well, wanting doesn't pay bills," Brad shot back. Grant slammed the laptop shut. "Enough." Silence fell across the room like ash. Grant turned to Lena, softening only for her. "This isn't your fault, sweetheart. But you need to understand something. Viktor Kovalev doesn't tolerate mistakes. Brad didn't just betray you. He put you and Evan in danger long before tonight." Lena's knees felt weak. "Danger? What kind of danger?" Grant hesitated, a rare thing for him. The kind of danger that follows people. The kind that watches from across the street. The kind that doesn't knock. Brad suddenly grabbed Lena's arm. "Listen to me, your dad doesn't know what he's talking about. Kovalev won't touch us. I'm too important." Grant pulled him off her with a single sharp motion. "If you were important, Brad, he wouldn't have sent someone to your office today." Brad froze. Lena stared at him. "Someone went to your office?" Brad stepped back, panic finally cracking through. He didn't answer. Grant opened his phone, tapping the screen. Within seconds, a video clip appeared, grainy security footage of a man in a dark coat, stepping out of an elevator onto Brad's office floor. Tall, broad, a face like a statue. He walked straight toward Brad's office door. Lena looked at Brad, her voice shaking. "Why didn't you tell me?" Brad's chest rose and fell quickly. Because it wasn't supposed to happen. They weren't supposed to come." Grant paused the video. "You're out of time," he said coldly. "Kovalev sent a warning. Next time, it won't be a visit." Lena felt her pulse crash in her ears, terror mixing with betrayal until she could barely breathe. Grant placed a gentle hand on her back. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "we need to leave this apartment. Now." Brad lunged forward. "She's not going anywhere with you." "Huh." Grant turned slowly, eyes sharp as steel. "She's not safe here, and after tonight—" He stepped closer, voice dropping to a chilling whisper. "Neither are you." And just as Grant said it, a shadow moved outside the front door. The shadow outside the door moved a second time, slow, deliberate, too controlled to be a neighbor passing by. Lena's breath caught in her chest. Brad stumbled backward, panic flaring in his eyes. Grant instantly shifted, stepping in front of Lena as if he had rehearsed it his entire life. "Don't make a sound," he whispered. The hallway went silent. Even the humming of the building's ancient heater seemed to pause. A soft clicking sound came from the doorknob. Lena grabbed Grant's arm. "Dad? Is that?" "Yes," Grant murmured. "Someone is testing the lock." Brad's voice cracked. We should call the police." Lena shot him a searing look. "You don't get to talk about calling for help. Not after tonight." But Grant shook his head. "Police won't get here in time. And if they did, they wouldn't stop a man like this." Another click. Harder this time. Brad backed up until he hit the kitchen counter. His hands shook violently. "He's here for me." Grant didn't turn but spoke through clenched teeth. "They're here because you failed your boss, and because you were sloppy. Men like Kovalev don't appreciate sloppy." "One." Lena was trembling, but anger began to burn through her fear. "You dragged us into this, me, Evan. You used my name, and now someone's at my door?" A final click echoed through the apartment. The lock gave way. Grant grabbed Lena's wrist. Bedroom. Window. Now. The door creaked open slowly, the hinge whining like a warning. A tall silhouette entered the apartment, broad shoulders, heavy boots, moving with the quiet confidence of someone who'd broken into homes before. Someone who didn't bother hiding his presence. Lena's heartbeat hammered in her ears. Brad whispered, "He's going to kill me." Grant hissed, "Move." He shoved Lena toward the bedroom. She clutched Evan's blanket as if it were a lifeline, stumbling over her own feet. Brad sprinted behind them, gasping for air. Grant slammed the bedroom door shut just as a heavy footstep thudded into the living room. Grant locked the door, but it wouldn't hold long. "Window," he ordered. "Fire escape." Blah. Lena pushed it open, icy night air slicing through the room. 6 floors below, the alley was swallowed in darkness. "Go," Grant urged. Lena climbed out, gripping the metal railing. Her hands were shaking so badly she nearly missed the next bar. Brad hesitated. I can't." Grant grabbed him by the collar and shoved him through the window. "You can if you want to live." Inside the apartment, a loud crash echoed. The bedroom door shook violently. The man had reached it. Grant climbed out last, pulling the window closed behind him but leaving it unlocked. He turned to Lena. "We go down," he said. "Keep your head low." They descended quickly, the metal rattling with every movement. Snow had begun to fall, thin flakes drifting like ash. Lena didn't feel the cold. She barely felt her hands. She only heard the pounding of footsteps as the man reached the bedroom. Brad whimpered. "We're sitting ducks. What do we do?" "We get to the car," Grant said. "I parked in the alley." They reached the 2nd floor when the bedroom window above them suddenly flew open. A dark figure leaned out, scanning the fire escape. Lena's breath stopped. He saw them. "There," the man bellowed, voice deep enough to shake the air. Grant grabbed Lena's hand. "Move." The man swung his leg out the window, stepping onto the fire escape. Metal groaned under his weight. He was coming down. Fast. Brad screamed and nearly slipped on a slick bar. Grant caught him by his jacket and shoved him forward. "Run!" Grant roared. But Lena hesitated for a fraction of a second, long enough to see the man's face clearly under the street lamp's glow. She knew that face. Not from real life, but from the surveillance photo on Grant's laptop. Viktor Kovalev's enforcer. Right above them. Closing in. And he wasn't alone, another shadow was climbing out of the window behind him. The fire escape rattled beneath their feet as Lena, Grant, and Brad climbed down into the freezing alley. Snowflakes drifted across the narrow passage, catching the faint glow from the street lamps above. The metal bars were slick with ice, and the bitter wind cut across Lena's cheeks like knives. She clutched Evan's blanket with one hand, gripping the railing with the other. Above them, heavy boots slammed onto the fire escape. The enforcer was descending fast, too fast. His breath came out in sharp clouds, and the metal shook violently with every step. Behind him, another man climbed out the window, the second shadow from moments before. 2 men, not one. Grant cursed under his breath. "They sent a team," Brad wheezed. "Why? Why would they send 2? "Because you owe more than you told us," Grant snapped. "Keep moving." They reached the last platform, just 1 level above the alley floor. The cold bit deeper as Lena swung her legs over the railing. Her boots hit the frozen pavement hard, jolting pain up her legs. She nearly fell, but Grant caught her before she could collapse. Brad dropped down next, landing awkwardly and nearly rolling his ankle. Grant jumped last, landing with surprising control for a man his age. But Lena barely had a second to breathe before she heard metal shrieking overhead. The first enforcer had reached the bottom of the fire escape. He was only seconds behind them. "Cars this way," Grant said, pulling Lena toward the darker end of the alley. But the alley wasn't empty. A black sedan idled near the mouth of the street, its engine rumbling low and ominous. Headlights flicked on, illuminating them in a blinding wash of white. "Dad," Lena whispered. "Someone's inside." Grant moved quickly, placing himself between her and the lights. "We're boxed in." Brad spun around frantically. We can go the other way." "No," Grant said. "That's a dead end." A door from the sedan opened slowly. A man stepped out. Not the enforcer, not the second shadow. This man wore a tailored coat. Scarf knotted carefully, hair slicked back with precision. His expression was disturbingly calm. Lena's stomach dropped. "Who is that?" she whispered. Grant's voice hardened. "Kovalev's coordinator. He collects debt." Brad stumbled backward until he hit the brick wall. No, this can't be happening." "You should have thought of that before you stole from them," Grant said. "I didn't steal," Brad cried. I used some of the transfers to cover the portfolio losses. I was going to fix it." "Quiet," Grant snapped. "They're here because you're not worth protecting anymore." The enforcer finally reached the ground behind them. He and the coordinator exchanged a silent nod. They had them cornered. Lena pressed herself against the wall, her pulse pounding so loud she could barely hear the wind. She could feel her father tightening his grip on his coat pocket, ready, prepared, calculating. The coordinator stepped forward. "Mr. Whitford," he said calmly, as if greeting an acquaintance at a business dinner. "You have something that belongs to us." Brad shook so violently his teeth clicked. "Please, I can pay it back." "Yes," the man said, his voice like ice. "You can, but the timeline has changed." Grant shifted subtly, his stance widening. Lena recognized the posture. Her father wasn't just standing, he was preparing. The enforcer reached into his jacket. Grant reached into his coat at the same time. Everything slowed. "Dad," Lena rasped, her voice barely a breath. "Don't." But Grant didn't look at her. His gaze was locked on the two men approaching. "Stay behind me, sweetheart." The enforcer pulled something out. Not a gun. A heavy black tactical baton. Grant pulled something too. A sleek compact device with blinking lights Lena had never seen before. The coordinator's eyes narrowed. "What is that?" he demanded. Grant's voice was calm, steady, deadly. "A warning." He pressed a button. A pulse of blue light surged through the alley. And suddenly, every light on the entire block went out. For a breathless moment, Manhattan disappeared. The entire block fell into darkness. Street lamps, building signs, apartment windows, everything vanished in a single electric gasp. The cold alley was swallowed by shadow, broken only by the soft hiss of falling snow. Lena's pulse hammered in her ears. "Dad, what did you do?" Grant didn't answer. He didn't need to. The compact device in his hand blinked faintly, emitting tiny pulses of blue light. It wasn't a weapon. It was a jammer, military grade, illegal for civilians to even possess. Brad pressed his back against the wall, panting. "Are you insane? They're going to kill us." Grant ignored him. His eyes stayed trained on the silhouettes in the alley. Two shadows that had gone still. The second the power died. The enforcer tried flicking on a flashlight, but it crackled and died instantly. "EMP," the coordinator hissed. "Portable." Grant smirked softly. "Good. You're smart enough to understand what that means." "It means you just escalated this," the coordinator warned. "It means your toys don't work anymore," Grant corrected. "And neither do your trackers." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the coordinator's face. In the blackout, Grant reached for Lena's arm, pulling her close. "We move now. Stay low. Follow my steps exactly." Lena's entire body trembled, but she nodded. She trusted him. After losing Evan, trust felt like a foreign concept, but with her father, it came easier than breathing. Brad, however, was unraveling fast. "We can't outrun them. We need to hide, call someone, do something." "No phones," Grant said. "Mine's shielded. Yours aren't." They'll trace you before you finish dialing. Lena gripped Evan's blanket tighter. Where are we going? Grant scanned the alley, calculating angles like he was back on a battlefield. To the car. Once we reach it, I can get us out of this neighborhood. Kovalev's men won't risk a pursuit without comms. A metallic clang behind them made Lena jump. The enforcer had moved silent, precise, closing in through the dark like a wolf. Grant reacted instantly, pulling Lena behind a dumpster as the baton sliced through the air where her head had been a second earlier. Brad screamed. Grant grabbed a loose pipe from the ground and swung, catching the enforcer in the ribs. The impact echoed through the alley. The enforcer stumbled, but didn't fall. He was massive, trained, and relentless. The coordinator stepped forward. "Colonel Holden," he called out calmly. "We don't want the girl. We don't even need you." His voice slid through the darkness like oil. "We only want Brad Whitford and the data he stole." Lena froze. "Stole," she whispered. "Brad? What did he steal?" "Nothing," Brad snapped. "They're lying, my God. Lena, don't listen." Grant's voice cut through the panic. "He didn't just launder money. He took files from Kovalev's system. Blackmail files. Insurance." The coordinator chuckled. "He's clever, but not clever enough." Lena stepped back from Brad, heart pounding. "You dragged us into something even worse than you said." Brad shook his head violently. "I did it for us, for a future. You think our life could stay afloat with your salary? With a sick kid?" Grant struck Brad across the face with the back of his hand. The sound cracked through the alley. "Don't you dare use Evan to justify this," Grant growled. The coordinator's voice sharpened. "Hand him over, Colonel. You and your daughter walk away clean." "No," Grant said. "Then he dies tonight." Lena's breath hitched as the enforcer lunged again, swinging the baton with brutal force. Grant blocked with the pipe, sparks flying in the darkness. The two men struggled, metal clashing, boots scraping ice. Brad panicked, slipping and falling into the snow. "Help me. Someone, please," Grant yelled. "Lena, run to the car." "One." She hesitated for only a second, then saw a third shadow moving behind the coordinator. Someone new. Someone stepping out of a second black sedan that hadn't been there a moment ago. Tall. Expensive coat. An accent when he spoke. "You're all wasting time," the new man said coldly. "Kovalev wants the girl too." And for the first time, Lena realized she wasn't just collateral, she was a target. Snow swirled through the alley like a restless ghost as the third man stepped forward, his silhouette cutting a long, sharp shape through the darkness. The faint reflection of headlights glinted off his polished shoes, and the silver watch peeking from beneath his tailored coat. His presence alone shifted the air, calm, predatory, practiced. Grant immediately moved in front of Lena again, pulling her behind his arm. "Stay back," he ordered, voice low. The coordinator stiffened. "You weren't supposed to be here," he hissed at the new arrival. The third man shrugged casually. Kovalev changed his mind. "He wants insurance." His gaze slid to Lena. Her stomach dropped. I don't even know any of you. Why would he want me?" Brad choked on a breath. "Because of the files. They think you assisted me." Grant grabbed Brad by the collar. "You shut your mouth." The enforcer swung at Grant again, baton slicing through the air with brutal force. Grant dodged, using the pipe to parry, but the man's strength was monstrous. Their struggle sent sparks off the fire escape ladder, lighting the darkness for a fraction of a second. The third man lifted a hand. "Stop wasting time. Bring her." Lena took a step back instinctively, heart pounding. No, I didn't do anything." "And that," the man said, "makes you leverage." Brad snapped. "Take me. I'm the one you want. Take me." The man smirked. "We already planned on it. But you're not the only debt in play tonight." Grant's jaw tightened. "You're not touching her." "With all due respect, Colonel," the man replied, "you're in no position to negotiate. We know who you are, what you built, what you hid." He tilted his head. "You kept your daughter far away. Smart. But eventually, everything catches up." Grant's eyes flashed with something Lena had never seen before: fear. Real fear. And that terrified her more than the men surrounding them. "Let her go," Grant said evenly. "She knows nothing. And yet she holds everything," the man countered. "Your daughter has access you don't realize." "I don't," Lena protested. I swear I don't even know what you're talking about. The coordinator stepped closer. Your father gave you something years ago. Something encrypted. Something Kovalev wants. Grant's face turned to stone. Lena's breath hitched. Dad. But there was no time. The enforcer attacked again, and this time the blow landed. The baton slammed into Grant's ribs with a sickening thud. He staggered back, dropping the pipe. Breath knocked from his lungs. Dad, Lena screamed. Brad bolted for the mouth of the alley in blind panic. I'm done, I'm out. The coordinator snapped his fingers, and the second enforcer sprinted after him. Grant lunged, grabbing Lena's arm. Don't look at me, move, now. But Dad, move, Lena. She ran. Her boots skidded on the icy pavement as she sprinted toward the far end of the alley, snow whipping into her eyes. Her lungs burned, but fear propelled her faster than she'd ever moved in her life. Behind her, she heard another crack of the baton. Grant grunted in pain. She turned her head just a second, and saw the first enforcer raising the baton again, preparing to bring it down. Lena screamed. Stop! Keep running! Grant shouted hoarsely, but she couldn't leave him. Her father had shown up the night her world collapsed, the night Evan died, the night she lost everything. She would not abandon him now. She skidded to a halt, turned, and slammed into something solid. The third man had stepped directly into her path, blocking the exit. His gloved hand shot out and grabbed her wrist, cold and crushing. No more running, he said calmly. You're coming with us. Lena tried to wrench free, panic exploding inside her, but he tightened his grip and leaned in. Don't fight me. You won't win. Behind him, she heard Grant's voice, strained, furious, defeated. Lena, don't. Let them take you. The third man pulled her toward the car. And then, a fourth figure stepped out from the shadows behind him, raising something metallic to the back of his head. The metallic click sliced through the darkness like a blade. The third man froze, Lena's wrist still locked in his grip. His head tilted slightly, as if he couldn't quite believe someone had managed to come up behind him. Let her go, a low voice commanded from the shadows. Lena's breath hitched. She didn't recognize the voice, but something in its steadiness, its calm authority, sparked a faint flare of hope in her chest. The third man did not release her. Instead, he smirked. That would be unwise. The cold metal pressed harder against the back of his skull. I don't repeat myself, the voice said. Slowly, deliberately, the third man released Lena's wrist. She stumbled backward, chest heaving, clutching Evan's blanket to her chest as if it were a shield. The figure stepped into the dim sliver of moonlight, leaking between the rooftops. A tall man, broad-shouldered beneath a dark coat dusted with snow. His hair was tousled by the wind, his jaw sharp, his expression carved from stone. In his right hand, he held a compact tactical weapon, sleek, unfamiliar, clearly not NYPD. He positioned himself between Lena and the men closing in. Who are you? Lena breathed. He didn't look at her. His eyes stayed locked on the coordinator and the enforcer. Not your enemy. The coordinator narrowed his eyes. Dr. Caldwell. I should have known you'd interfere. Lena blinked. Her heart lurched. Dr. Noah Caldwell, the cardiothoracic surgeon who had fought to save Evan. The man who had stayed long after the operation failed, sitting with her as she cried. The man whose quiet steadiness had felt like the only anchor in a night full of storms. She whispered, You followed me? No, he said softly. I found you. The enforcer lunged forward. Noah fired. A single pulse of blue light shot from the weapon, silent, clean, controlled. It struck the enforcer in the chest, sending him crashing back against the brick wall. He wasn't dead, but he was out. The coordinator stepped back. That device is restricted military tech. You don't have clearance to. I have whatever clearance I need, Noah replied. Grant struggled upright, one hand pressed to his ribs. Caldwell, he rasped, recognition dawning. I should have known. Your agency. Retired, Noah replied. Mostly. Lena stared at him, stunned. Your CIA? Noah's jaw flexed. Long story. Not important right now. Brad shrieked from the far end of the alley, wrestling with the second enforcer who had nearly dragged him to the car. Someone help me. And Noah didn't even glance at him. He's not our priority. But the coordinator moved faster than Lena expected. He yanked a blade from his coat and lunged for Noah. Grant tried to intercept, but he wasn't fast enough. Noah was. He twisted, deflecting the attack with a swift, precise strike. The blade clattered to the pavement. Noah kicked it away and grabbed the coordinator by the collar, slamming him into the brick wall. "You tell Kovalev," Noah growled, "that if he sends anyone else after Lena, I'll come for him personally." The coordinator's lips curled into a slow, chilling smile. He already expected that. Noah's eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "It means," the coordinator whispered, "you're not the only one with a past." Before Noah could react, the coordinator slipped something into his pocket from inside his coat, smooth, metallic, small. Grant saw it too late. "Noah, move." The coordinator pulled his hand away, revealing a pressure-activated beacon blinking red. And Lena realized. It wasn't a weapon. It was a signal. The coordinator smirked. "Backup's coming." Noah's eyes snapped to Lena, urgent. "We need to go. Now." Grant pulled Lena to his side, stumbling as he tried to catch his breath. But down the alley, headlights flared. Not one car. Two. Coming fast. And this time, they weren't stopping to talk. Because Kovalev had just unleashed the rest of his men, and Lena was still trapped inside the alley. The roar of engines thundered down the alley, bouncing off the brick walls like rolling thunder. Lena's heart lurched as two sets of headlights blasted through the falling snow, growing brighter, closer, faster. Noah stepped in front of her instinctively, raising his weapon with controlled precision. Grant positioned himself on her other side, battered but unbroken, his breathing ragged but steady. Brad, still tangled with the second enforcer, shrieked, "Help! Please don't let them take me." His voice cracked like glass, pathetic and wild. Noah didn't look at him. "He's slowing us down," he muttered. "They're here for him, not for us." But Lena grabbed Noah's arm. "They're here for me too." He said that. He said Kovalev wants me. Noah hesitated. "Lena, please don't leave him," she whispered weakly. "Not like this." Grant's voice cut in, stern and urgent. "We don't have time to save everyone. We focus on you." Another set of headlights flashed brighter, closer. The first car braked hard, tires skidding over icy pavement. Men began to spill out dark coats, tactical gear, weapons glinting in the faint moonlight. This wasn't an intimidation team. It was extraction. As the second car skidded in behind them, completing the trap, Lena realized they were boxed in again. A perfect choke point. No way forward, no way back. Grant swore under his breath. "They're trying to funnel us." Noah scanned the alley, calculating angles, scanning windows, assessing risk. His jaw tightened. "There's one exit." "Where?" Lena gasped. Noah pointed upward. The fire escapes loomed above them, black outlines against the sky. The ladder leading up was dangling just a few feet away. Grant shook his head. "We can't climb with them right behind us." "We don't climb," Noah interrupted. "We jump." "What?" Lena blinked. "Jump where?" Noah pointed to the second-floor landing. "You're light. I can boost you. Grant can follow. I'll take the rear." Grant grimaced. "I can barely breathe." "I know," Noah said softly. "But you can still climb." The coordinator, pinned earlier, had recovered enough to shout, "Take them alive, if possible, Whitford first." Brad screamed, "No, no, no," as he clawed at the icy ground. Grant sized Lena's arm. "We move now." But before Noah could lift Lena, one of the enforcers broke free from Brad and charged directly at them. Noah fired a second stun round it hit, but the man kept coming. Too much adrenaline. Too much rage. Grant stepped forward and intercepted him, taking the blow to his already bruised ribs. He crumpled to one knee, gasping. "Dad," Lena cried. "I'm fine," he wheezed. Go now." Noah grabbed Lena by the waist. "Hold on." He lifted her as if she weighed nothing, launching her upward. Her hands caught the metal grate of the landing, cold and rough under her palms. She scrambled onto it, breathless. "Grant!" Noah shouted. Grant tried to climb, but the pain dragged him back down. Noah grabbed him under the arms and forced him upward with sheer, desperate strength. Grant managed to reach the railing with trembling hands. Lena reached down, trying to pull her father up, her fingers digging into his coat. "Come on, Dad, please." Below them, the coordinator pointed at Noah. "Take him out." Gunfire cracked through the alley. Noah shoved Grant upward, exposing his own back to the bullets, using his body as a shield. Lena screamed. "No, no." Grant tumbled onto the landing beside her, coughing violently. But Noah stayed on the ground, still standing, still between them and the men closing in. The coordinator smiled darkly. "Your turn, Doctor." Noah looked up at Lena, his eyes steady, calm. "Climb," he said. "Move." Footsteps thundered behind him. He turned, and came face to face with the largest enforcer yet, a mountain of a man stepping out of the second car. The newcomer cracked his knuckles. "Caldwell," he growled. "Kovalev sends his regards." And with nowhere left to run, Noah braced for the fight of his life. Noah barely had time to breathe before the giant enforcer lunged at him. The man moved with terrifying speed for someone his size, boots pounding against the frozen pavement like cannon fire. Noah dodged the first strike by inches, the enforcer's fist slamming into the brick wall with enough force to send cracks spidering across the surface. Above them on the landing, Lena watched in horror. "Noah, please just climb. Leave him." But Noah didn't look away from the massive man circling him. "If I climb," he called up, voice steady, "he'll go after you. I'm not letting that happen." The enforcer charged again, swinging a metal pipe ripped from a broken railing. Noah ducked, rolled, and struck the man's knee with a tight, practiced kick. The giant grunted but barely stumbled. The momentum only seemed to make him angrier. Grant wheezed beside Lena, gripping his rib cage. "He doesn't stand a chance against that monster." Lena shook her head violently. "Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He has to." Her voice cracked with fear and something deeper, something she hadn't admitted even to herself. Below them, the alley exploded into chaos. The coordinator advanced from behind the enforcer, calling out, "Take him alive if possible. If not, just take the girl." Noah spun sharply. "You're not touching her." "Z." The enforcer swung the pipe again, this time catching Noah across the shoulder. The crack echoed like a gunshot. Noah stumbled but stayed upright, jaw clenched in pain. "No!" Lena screamed, reaching for him even though he was yards below. Noah shook off the impact and shifted his stance weight low, hands up, eyes sharp. He was trained, that much was clear. Grant recognized it instantly. "He's operating on instinct," Grant muttered, leaning on the railing. "But he's injured." "Huh," Lena whispered. "He doesn't care. He's still fighting for us." The enforcer roared and charged again. Noah sidestepped, grabbed the man's coat, and used his momentum to slam him into the brick wall. The alley trembled. The enforcer swung wildly, catching Noah's jaw. Blood sprayed across the snow. Noah fell to one knee. The coordinator smirked. "Finish him." The enforcer lifted the pipe high over his head, ready to bring it down with lethal force. "Noah," Lena sobbed, reaching so far over the railing that Grant had to grab her waist before she toppled. But Noah wasn't done. He looked up just once at Lena. That single glance carried a promise. Then he rolled to the side. The pipe smashed into the pavement, sending shards of ice flying. Noah grabbed the fallen pipe, spun it around, and slammed the metal into the enforcer's temple. The giant staggered. Noah struck again harder. The enforcer collapsed onto his knees. For a second, everything slowed. Then the coordinator shouted, "Take the girl now." Two more men stepped out from behind the second car, armed, fast, and heading straight for the fire escape ladder. Lena's blood froze. "Dad, they're coming up." Grant forced himself upright, every breath a struggle. "We have to move. Now." Lena looked down. "Noah, you have to climb. They'll kill you." Noah glanced up, panting hard, blood dripping down his cheek. "Get to the roof. Don't stop." "One. We're not leaving you. You have to." The enforcer suddenly grabbed Noah's ankle, yanking him down. Noah hit the ground with a sickening thud. The pipe skittered away across the ice. Lena screamed. "No, no." Noah kicked the man's wrist, trying to break free, but pain tore through his body. The enforcer, barely conscious, tightened his grip with monstrous strength. Grant grabbed Lena's arm. "Sweetheart, we move now." Lena's heart split in two. She watched Noah struggle, watched him try to rise again, try to reach the ladder, try to survive. But the coordinator stepped closer, pulling a knife from his coat. Noah saw it. Lena saw it. And time shattered, because the coordinator raised the blade, aiming straight for Noah's heart. The coordinator's knife gleamed in the faint snowfall, its silver edge glinting like a cold promise. He raised it high, ready to drive it straight into Noah's chest. Below the fire escape, Noah struggled beneath the enforcer's crushing grip, breath ragged, body weakened from the fight. His eyes met Lena's for a split second, and there was acceptance there. A silent apology, a silent goodbye. "No, no," Lena screamed, her voice shredding into the night. Grant tightened his grip on her wrist. "Lena, we can't stay. They're nearly on the ladder." But Lena didn't hear him. She couldn't hear anything. Her heart was slamming against her ribs, drowning out the world. Noah had fought for her. Noah had bled for her. Noah had saved her father's life. And now he was about to. The knife came down. At the last possible heartbeat, Noah twisted. The blade sliced across his shoulder instead of his chest, tearing through coat and skin, blood splattering onto the snow. Noah grabbed the coordinator's wrist with everything he had left, forcing the knife away from his heart. The coordinator growled, "You should have stayed dead 20 years ago, Caldwell." Noah spat blood. "You talk too much." He slammed his forehead into the coordinator's nose. A sickening crack echoed. The coordinator stumbled back, cursing, but the enforcer still had Noah pinned. He tightened his grip around Noah's ankle, pulling him back down. Noah kicked, gasping, fighting with sheer instinct. Above them, Lena sobbed, reaching down helplessly. "Dad, please, we have to get him." Grant's eyes softened for a brief second. His ribs were bruised, his breathing jagged, his body failing him, but he saw the way Lena looked at Noah. The terror, the desperation, the love she didn't even know she'd been building. He cupped her cheek. "Sweetheart, I'm not letting him die." Grant turned, grabbed a broken metal rod from the landing, and hurled it downward with surprising strength. It struck the enforcer's arm, forcing him to release Noah's leg. Noah rolled free, gasping in a lungful of frozen air. The coordinator shouted, "Take him again." But Noah was faster now, desperation fueling him. He grabbed the fallen pipe, swung it upward, and struck the enforcer in the throat. The giant reeled back, choking, collapsing onto the snow. Noah scrambled toward the fire escape ladder, slipping on ice, vision blurred. "No, Klimb," Lena cried. He jumped, caught the bottom rung, and pulled himself up with a groan of agony. Blood dripped from his shoulder, staining the rungs crimson. Halfway up, he nearly lost his grip, but Lena reached down and caught his wrist. "I've got you," she whispered, shaking. "I've got you." Noah looked up at her, eyes dazed but full of the same steady resolve he'd shown since the night Evan died. "Lena, don't let go." "I won't," she said, voice breaking. "Ever." With Grant's help, they hauled Noah onto the landing. He collapsed forward, chest heaving, blood smearing across the metal grate. Snowflakes fell onto his dark hair like scattered ash. Lena wrapped her arm around him. "You're okay. You're okay." But below them, engines revved again. The coordinator, wiping blood from his broken nose, shouted, "Cut them off from the roof." Now, men began redirecting. Footsteps thundered toward the building entrance, heading for the stairwell inside. Grant swore. "They're going for the roof access. We're losing our lead." Noah forced himself upright despite the pain. "Then we go higher. We reach the top before they do." Lena stared upward at the endless rows of fire escape ladders climbing toward the sky. Her legs trembled not from fear, but exhaustion. She whispered, "How high do we have to go?" Noah looked at her with steady eyes. "To the roof," he said. "It's the only place left." Grant checked the alley, a swarm of Kovalev's men gathering below. "No," he corrected grimly. "To survive," he said, "we have to go higher than that." Lena's breath hitched. "Higher? Where?" Grant pointed upward, to the neighboring building's rooftop helicopter pad, faintly visible through the falling snow. Snow whipped across Lena's face as she stared at the distant helicopter pad shimmering faintly on the neighboring rooftop. It looked impossibly far, almost unreal through the fog. Her breath clouded in shaky bursts. "Dad, that's 3 buildings over." "Mun." Grant wiped blood from his jaw. 2.5. And we don't have a choice. Below them, the alley roared with chaos. Kovalev's men regrouped, shouting orders, their boots crunching over snow as they fanned out toward the building's interior access points. Engines revved, and somewhere, someone fired a warning shot into the air. Noah staggered but refused to lean on Lena. We need height. Once we reach the top, I can signal help. Help? Lena breathed. From who? Noah's jaw tensed. People who owe me. It wasn't a comforting answer. But right now, she'd take anything. Grant pointed upward. We go. Now. Before they blocked the roof from inside, the three of them moved, climbing the next ladder. Noah gritted his teeth with every pull, blood still dripping from his shoulder, leaving a trail of red on the cold metal. Grant climbed slower, each breath painful, but determination pushed him upward. Lena paused only once to glance down. She shouldn't have. The coordinator had recovered and was now climbing the first ladder, his men close behind. He pointed at Lena, barked an order, and said something she couldn't hear, but his smile chilled her to the bone. They would not stop. Lena, Noah called. Don't look down. Move. Her fingers shook as she climbed, but she forced herself upward. She couldn't let fear freeze her. Evan's blanket was tucked into her jacket, close to her heart. The memory of his soft breathing, the way he held her hand, those thoughts carried her higher than strength alone could. They reached the next landing. Wind ripped across the metal grates, sharp and unforgiving. Above them was another ladder. And another. Endless. Grant steadied himself. 2 more. Then the roof. Noah checked over his shoulder. We have less time than that. Below, 2 of Kovalev's men had broken off and sprinted toward the building entrance. They were heading for the stairwell to cut them off. Grant saw it too. They'll reach the roof before we do. Noah's eyes darkened. Not if we move. They climbed again. Lena's arms burned. Her lungs screamed. Her legs trembled. But she kept going. 1 rung at a time. Snow hit her eyes. She blinked it away. The city spread around her, towering skyscrapers, frozen rooftops, plumes of steam rising from vents cold and indifferent to the nightmare unfolding in one narrow alley. Halfway up the ladder, Noah suddenly stopped. His breath hitched. Noah? Lena whispered. He pressed a hand to the wound across his shoulder. Blood seeped through his fingers. I'm fine. Keep climbing. You're not fine, she said, tears burning. You're losing too much blood. We don't have time, he said firmly. Please, go. She didn't want to leave him. But the pounding footsteps below forced her upward. Grant reached the top first and pulled Lena over the edge. Wind slammed into them, fierce, frigid, relentless. The rooftop stretched wide, covered with snow. A rusted maintenance shack sat near the center. Beyond it, 3 rooftops away, the red beacon of the helicopter pad blinked faintly through the storm. Noah dragged himself onto the roof next, panting hard, collapsing briefly to one knee. Grant scanned the rooftop access door. It rattled violently. They're almost here, he warned. We don't have minutes. We have seconds. May. Lena grabbed Noah's arm. Can you run? He forced himself upright. I can try. Grant pointed to the far edge. We jumped to the next building. Lena stared at him in disbelief. Jump? It's close enough, Grant said. A short gap. Do it running. No, Lena whispered. Dad, that's insane. Insane or dead? Grant snapped. Choose. The rooftop door below them slammed open. Boots stormed onto the stairs. Voices shouted. A bullet cracked into the snow near Grant's feet. Noah grabbed Lena's hand. Run. But as they sprinted toward the roof's edge, a figure emerged from the stairwell holding a sniper rifle, aiming directly at Lena. The sniper's silhouette cut clean through the swirling snow, a dark, immovable shape framed by the open stairwell door. His rifle rose with chilling precision, the barrel tracking Lena as if she were the only thing in the world worth aiming at. A red laser dot blinked alive, slicing through the wind until it hovered dead center on her chest. Down, Noah shouted. He threw himself into her, knocking her flat against the icy rooftop just as the rifle cracked. The bullet tore through the air, where her heart had been a half-second before, shattering a metal vent behind them. Lena's ears rang. Her palms scraped against the snow. Noah shielded her with his body. gritting his teeth as he scanned the rooftop. Grant fired a warning shot from his small sidearm, forcing the sniper to duck behind the stairwell door. "Move, he'll adjust his aim." Lena stumbled to her feet, adrenaline surging through her veins like fire. Noah grabbed her hand, pulling her into a sprint. The bitter wind tore at their clothes, pushing against them as they ran toward the ledge. Another shot exploded behind them. Snow kicked up inches from Lena's heels. Grant limped after them, every step a fight, but he refused to fall behind. "Go, don't stop." The three of them reached the far edge. Across a terrifying 8-foot gap sat the next rooftop, lower by about 3 feet, but still dangerously far. Snow made everything slick. Deadly. Lena froze. "Dad. I can't." "You can," Grant said, his voice rough with certainty. "Think of Evan. Think of getting justice for him. You jump, sweetheart. You jump and don't look back." Her eyes burned, but she nodded. Noah positioned himself beside her. "I'll go first. Then I'll catch you." "No," Lena whispered. "You're hurt." He met her eyes steady, unwavering. "I'm still catching you." Before she could argue, Noah stepped back, inhaled sharply, and sprinted toward the edge. His boots pounded across the icy rooftop. 1, 2, 3. He jumped. For a heartbeat, he hung in midair, snow swirling around him like scattered stars. Then he landed hard on the next rooftop, rolling to absorb the impact. He groaned, but he got up quickly, bracing himself against the ledge. "Lena," he shouted, "your turn." Grant leaned close to her ear. "Run. Don't think. Run." Another bullet cracked behind them. The sniper was aiming again. The shot missed Noah by inches, sparking off a metal pipe. "Lena," Noah yelled, reaching out. She ran. Her legs burned with fear and cold, but she pushed through it. The ledge approached too fast and not fast enough. The wind roared in her ears. Her heart pounded in her throat. Then she jumped. The world fell away beneath her. For a split second, she thought she wouldn't make it. The gap felt endless. The cold bit into her skin. Her stomach dropped. Then, hands caught her. Noah gripped her forearms tightly, dragging her up and over the ledge. She crashed into him, both of them tumbling onto the snow-covered roof. She clung to him, shaking, breathless. "I've got you," he whispered, voice raw. "You're okay." Behind them, Grant was still on the first roof. "Dad!" Lena cried, scrambling to the edge. Grant limped forward, fighting the pain, fighting the wind, fighting the men storming onto the roof behind him. The sniper took aim again. Grant had seconds. "Go," he shouted. "Don't wait for me." But Lena sobbed. "I'm not leaving you. You have to." Grant barked. "You're my daughter, you survive." He ran. He pushed off with everything he had left. His feet cleared the ledge. A bullet ripped through the air. Lena screamed. Grant's body jerked mid-jump. He fell just short, fingers clawing for the edge, and missed. He plunged out of sight into the darkness between the buildings. Snow swallowed the sound of his fall. Lena's scream tore through the night. As the men on the first roof turned their guns toward her and Noah, Lena's scream ripped through the frozen air as her father disappeared into the darkness between the buildings. Noah grabbed her before she could throw herself over the ledge, pulling her back with all the strength he had left. "Lena, you can't," he yelled, voice raw. He fell. Lena choked out, her whole body shaking violently. Her fingers clawed at the ledge as if she could somehow pull him back from the void. "Dad. Dad." 1. Snow drifted quietly into the gap, indifferent to the man who'd vanished beneath it. Noah tightened his grip. "Lena, look at me. Look at me." His voice softened, trembling with something close to panic. "He may be alive. He may have hit a ledge. We'll find him, but not if we're dead." She froze, breath heaving. He was right. Below them, shouts erupted. The coordinator barked orders. Men pointed rifles upward. A laser sight flickered across the snow-covered edge once, twice. "They're aiming again," Noah warned. He dragged Lena behind a ventilation unit just as bullets tore into the ledge where she had been kneeling seconds ago. Concrete shattered, chunks of debris spraying across the roof. Lena sobbed into her hands. "This is my fault. If he hadn't come here, if he hadn't tried to save me." "It's not your fault," Noah said fiercely. Your father didn't fall because of you. He fell because of them. No. He peered around the metal unit. Kovalev's men flooded the adjacent roof, rifles scanning the darkness. We need to move, he whispered. Lena felt numb, colder than the winter wind, colder than the snow melting on her cheeks. Her father's voice echoed inside her head. You're my daughter. You survive. A brutal mix of grief and fury ignited in her chest. Noah stood slowly, favoring his injured shoulder. He winced but stayed steady. We head east. There's another gap, narrower than the last. If we get across, we'll lose their sightlines. Lena nodded, wiping tears with trembling fingers. Okay, let's go. They sprinted across the roof, boots sliding on the slick snow. The wind howled around them, whipping Lena's hair into her face. The distance to the next building was shorter, but the ledge was narrower, more dangerous. Behind them, the sniper repositioned. He's lining up a shot, Noah shouted. A bullet whistled past Lena's ear as she dove behind an air duct. Metal sparked violently. Noah grabbed her hand. Jump now. She pushed herself off the roof, every muscle screaming. The world blurred snow, wind, the glow of distant city lights. She landed hard on the next building, rolling painfully across the icy surface. Noah landed beside her a split second later, stumbling but staying upright. They scrambled to their feet. But something was wrong. The rooftop was silent, too silent. No voices, no engines, no shouting. Then Lena froze. A third black sedan sat parked in the center of the rooftop. Engine idling softly. Sleek, silent, waiting. A man leaned against the driver's side door, arms crossed, watching them through the snowfall. He wore a long charcoal coat, expensive leather gloves, and a calm expression that chilled Lena more than any weapon. It was the same man from the surveillance photos. Viktor Kovalev. Noah's entire body tensed. Stay behind me. Run. Kovalev pushed off the car, straightening his coat, and began walking toward them unhurried, unbothered, as if greeting late arrivals to a private meeting. When he spoke, his voice was low, smooth, deadly calm. You ran far tonight, Kovalev said, the faintest trace of an accent curling around his words. Farther than most. Lena's breath caught. But I always retrieve what belongs to me. Noah stepped in front of her. You're not touching her. All done. Kovalev stopped a few feet away, hands behind his back. You misunderstand, he said softly. I didn't come for her. He lifted his chin eyes, locking onto Noah. I came for you. And Noah's face drained of color, as the past he never spoke about finally stepped out of the shadows. For a moment, the entire rooftop felt suspended in ice. Snow drifted silently between Noah and Viktor Kovalev, dissolving into the cold air like dying sparks. Lena's breath stuck in her throat. Noah stood perfectly still, too still, his jaw clenched, his eyes hollowing with a dread she had never seen on him before. Noah, Lena whispered. What does he mean? Why would he come for you? Noah didn't answer. His body shifted subtly, shoulders tightening as if preparing for something terrible. Kovalev stepped closer, hands still behind his back, expression maddeningly calm. It's been a long time, Dr. Caldwell. The title, Doctor, rolled off his tongue like a taunt. Noah's voice came out low, steady, controlled. You're supposed to be dead. Kovalev smiled faintly. A common misconception. One you helped create, if I recall. Lena's heart dropped. You know him? She whispered. Noah swallowed. I knew him. Years ago. Kovalev tilted his head. He was one of my best assets, until he betrayed me. Lena's breath shattered. Noah. What is he talking about? Kovalev continued before Noah could speak. Before the agency recruited him, before he became the surgeon, you know. Caldwell worked black operations. He infiltrated my network, gained my trust, ate at my table, slept in my safe houses. Then he handed my operation to the government. His voice dipped into a quiet snarl. He cost me everything. Lena staggered back as if physically hit. Agent Noah had been inside Kovalev's empire. Noah exhaled, breath trembling. I did what I had to do. You were killing people, trafficking them, laundering money through half the East Coast. And you, Kovalev said softly, taking a step closer, pretended to be my friend, while planning my downfall. Lena's stomach twisted. She looked at Noah, searching his face. He didn't deny it. Kovalev's eyes narrowed at her. And now, your sweet nurse here is wrapped in your lies and your sins, just like her husband. The mention of Brad snapped something inside her. He was never my husband the way a real man should be, she said sharply. And Noah isn't like him. Kovalev chuckled lightly. You think you know this man? You know nothing of his past. Noah stepped forward. Leave her out of this. But Kovalev shook his head. Impossible. The moment you resurfaced Caldwell, everyone around you became leverage, including this woman. Noah's hand brushed Lena's arm, gentle, frantic. Lena, whatever he says, whatever he does, you don't believe him. You hear me? You stay behind me. Her voice cracked. Noah, why didn't you tell me? Because I'm not that man anymore, he whispered. I haven't been for a long time. Kovalev raised a hand, signaling the men behind him. Two stepped forward, rifles lifted but not yet aimed. You cost me my empire, Kovalev said. You cost me freedom. You cost me my brother. Noah's jaw tightened. Your brother was a murderer. And you killed him, Kovalev hissed. Lena froze. Noah didn't look at her. I did what I had to do. Kovalev exhaled. And now, I do what I have to do. Noah stepped closer to shield Lena fully. You want me? Fine. Take me. But she walks away. Kovalev laughed a low, cruel sound. You think you're negotiating? The girl is insurance. Lena shook her head. I'm not part of this. I didn't do anything. You exist, Kovalev said, and that is enough. The wind howled across the roof. Noah positioned himself like a wall between her and the men, every muscle rigid. He whispered without looking back. Lena, run when I say run. She gripped his coat. I'm not leaving you. You have to. But Kovalev lifted his hand, and all at once, every rifle pointed directly at Noah. Every red laser dot converged on his chest. Then Kovalev said, calm as ice, fire. And Lena didn't know if she was about to watch Noah Caldwell die. The command sliced through the night like a blade. Fire. It happened in less than a heartbeat. Red laser dots tightened across Noah's chest. Lena didn't think her body moved faster than her mind. She threw herself in front of him, arms spread, shielding him with nothing more than fragile skin and the blinding desperation pulsing through her veins. No, Noah roared, yanking her back as rifles cracked in perfect unison. The world exploded. Shots tore through the air loud, violent, merciless. Snow burst upward in sharp plumes as bullets slammed into the rooftop. Noah twisted, dragging Lena down behind a thick industrial vent just as metal shattered, slicing sparks into the cold night. Lena hit the ground hard, breath knocked from her lungs. Noah pressed her flat with his body, sheltering her from the hail of bullets. Are you hit? He shouted over the gunfire. No, she gasped. You? He didn't answer right away. Her heart froze. Noah. I'm fine, he said finally, though his voice strained with pain. Bullets ripped into the metal vent beside them. The rooftop shook with each impact. Kovalev's men advanced in a slow, coordinated line, measured steps, rifles raised, closing in like predators, tightening the circle around wounded prey. Kovalev didn't move. He watched, hands clasped behind his back, face calm as snowfall. End it, he said to his men. I've waited long enough. Noah's eyes darted across the roof, calculating. We need distance. Cover. Anything. Whoa. There's nothing here, Lena whispered, terror choking her throat. He grabbed her hand. Then we make our own. He pulled her up. They sprinted toward the far edge of the roof again, bullets trailing them like angry wasps. Snow splashed under their boots. Wind sliced their faces. Halfway across, Lena stumbled, her foot catching on a patch of ice. She pitched forward. Noah caught her before she hit the ground. Keep going. Behind them, Kovalev's men reloaded. Lena couldn't breathe. We can't outrun bullets. We don't need to outrun them, Noah said. We just need to reach. He stopped. Lena followed his gaze, and her stomach dropped. The next rooftop, the one they jumped from earlier, was no longer accessible. The narrow construction scaffold that once bridged the gap had been torn apart by gunfire. Pieces dangled from twisted cables, swaying uselessly in the wind. "There's no way back," Lena whispered, voice cracking. Noah looked around, searching desperately. His eyes landed on something. A metal cable line stretched between rooftops, a maintenance pulley system for window washers. Old, rusted, not meant for people. But it was the only thing left. "No," Lena breathed. "Noah, we'll fall. It's that or die here," he said. Kovalev's men reached the center of the roof. One lifted his rifle. Noah grabbed the pulley grip with one hand and wrapped his other arm tightly around Lena's waist. "Hold on to me," he ordered. She clung to him as if her life depended on it because it did. Then Noah kicked off the ledge. They swung into the open air. The world dropped beneath them. Lena screamed as they flew across the gap, suspended above a dizzying fall. The cable groaned. Rust flaked into the wind. Metal screeched under their combined weight. Halfway across, the cable jerked violently. A shot rang out. Lena's heart seized. "Noah, no." He hissed in pain. The bullet had grazed his side. Another shot hit the pulley wheel. The cable snapped loose from the far end. For one horrifying second, they hung in midair. Then gravity took them. They plummeted downward. Snow roared past them. Wind tore at their clothes. Lena screamed Noah's name as the rooftop rushed up toward them, and a pair of gloved hands reached out from the shadows below, grabbing for them as they fell. The gloved hands caught them with a force that jolted every bone in Lena's body. Noah twisted mid-fall, pulling her tight against his chest as the three of them crashed onto a lower rooftop. Snow burst around them in a white cloud. Lena coughed, breath trembling, but she felt arms still wrapped around her, strong, steady, alive. Noah groaned beneath her. "You okay?" She nodded, even though tears blurred her vision. You saved us." Again, the man who caught them staggered to his feet. A tall guard wearing a Holden security jacket, Grant's company emblem stitched across the chest. Two more guards rushed forward, weapons drawn, forming a protective circle around them. Then Lena heard it. "Sweetheart." Her heart stopped. Grant stood at the far end of the rooftop, leaning heavily against a vent but unmistakably alive. His face was bruised, coat torn, but his eyes, the same fierce, protective blue she'd known since childhood, were filled with relief. "Dad," she whispered. She ran to him, collapsing into his arms. He held her tight, his voice breaking. "I landed on scaffolding 2 floors down, knocked the wind out of me, not my first fall." He chuckled weakly. "But I heard you scream my name." Hell of a motivation to get back up. Noah approached, clutching his bleeding side. Grant clasped his shoulder. "You kept her alive. I owe you more than you know." Noah shook his head. "You owe me nothing. I'd die for her." Lena's breath caught. Noah didn't look away from her. And the truth in his words was unmistakable. Before she could speak, a shout echoed across the buildings. They're escaping." Kovalev's men swarmed the rooftops again, rifles raised. But this time, they weren't the only ones armed. A black helicopter roared overhead, Holden security markings flashing under the floodlights. Ropes dropped down. More of Grant's men descended like a storm of retribution. Grant's voice boomed with authority. "Disarm them. No casualties unless necessary." A firefight erupted, controlled, tactical, devastating. Kovalev's soldiers were trained, but Grant's men were elite. Lena watched, clutching Noah's arm, as Kovalev tried to retreat toward his sedan. A single warning shot from the helicopter forced him to freeze. Holden operatives surrounded him. Grant stepped forward, glaring down at the man who'd hunted his daughter. "Viktor Kovalev," he said coldly. "You're finished." "One." Kovalev's calm cracked for the first time. "This isn't over, Colonel. Men like me don't fall to men like you." Grant smirked. "No, you fall to the FBI." He nodded. 2 agents stepped out from the helicopter, real federal agents. Lena's jaw dropped. "Noah called them while we climbed," Grant explained softly. "Encrypted channel. Old contacts." Kovalev snarled as he was cuffed. "Caldwell, you traitor." Noah stepped forward, pain etched in his features. "You made the mistake of thinking I stopped fighting just because I left the agency." Kovalev was dragged away, spitting curses into the wind. "He deserves worse," Noah muttered. "He'll get worse," Grant replied. "Federal charges stick." Lena felt something inside her loosen, something heavy, dark, suffocating. Justice wasn't a dream. It was real, happening in front of her. But there was still one loose end. "Brad," she said quietly. "Where is Brad?" Grant stepped aside as two operatives brought Brad out from behind an exhaust unit, where he'd been hiding, crying, shaking, a coward stripped of swagger. "Lena, please help me," Brad begged. "You can tell them I didn't mean." She raised her hand. "No. You don't speak to me again. Not after what you did to Evan. Not after what you did to me." Brad looked at Noah, at Grant, then collapsed to his knees. "Please, someone." But no one did. He was cuffed and read his charges: money laundering, financial fraud, aiding a criminal network, obstruction of justice, and criminal negligence contributing to a child's death. Justice. Real justice. Lena exhaled shakily, leaning against Noah's shoulder. Grant placed a hand on their backs. "Let's go home, sweetheart." For the first time in months, the word home didn't hurt. Weeks later, Lena stood on a quiet hill outside Manhattan, overlooking a small memorial garden dedicated in Evan's name, funded by Holden Security. Noah stood beside her, his hand gently intertwined with hers. "You okay?" he whispered. She smiled through soft tears. "I think I'm finally getting there." He kissed her forehead. "Whatever comes next, I'm here." And Lena knew he meant it. She finally had peace. She finally had justice. And maybe finally she had love again. Because sometimes surviving the night means earning the dawn. All right. And just like that, our story comes to a close. But you're still here, my friend, listening, feeling, breathing with every beat of the journey. And if you've stayed with me all the way to this moment, then something in this story touched your heart. Maybe because a part of it echoes your own strength, your own battles, your own quiet nights of holding on when the world felt heavy. Life has a strange way of testing us. It breaks us open so we can rebuild stronger. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Lena's story reminds us of that truth. Pain is not the end, it's the turning point. We can rise. We can choose better. We can walk away from darkness and still find love, safety, and peace waiting on the other side. If this story gave you courage, or made you breathe a little deeper, or simply reminded you that healing is possible even after the darkest night, then I'm grateful you're here. So before we say goodbye, let me ask you gently, would you like more stories like this? If you do, remember to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next journey. You matter. And you're not alone, not here, not ever.